Hello children, welcome to Aarchi series for class 8 by Heaven's Publishing House. This is your friend Archel and today we are going to take up chapter number 11 of your book, that is the story of the Red Cross, right? Let's begin children. So, first of all, let's see this small exercise for you. You have to write 4 words that come to your mind for these situations, right? Like you can see, they are quarreling. These girls are quarreling. The boy is catching the other boy. They are maybe mocking these two, right? And they are taking a selfie, or these two may be taking a picture for these two. So write the words that come to your mind when you see these pictures, right? Let's move on. You have to complete these sentences now. In order to bring about more peace in my family, I need to. What do you need to do in order to bring peace in your family, children? So maybe you could plan a family dinner together, you could sing and dance together, you could play games with your family, right? So in order to bring peace to your family, you can do a number of things. So what according to you is the correct answer? You may write it, right? Now number 2 says, in order to bring about more peace in my school, what can you do to bring peace in your school, children? You can teach empathy to your children, right? You can teach them kindness, right? Same way, what can you do to bring about peace in the community? So whatever you feel is the right way to bring about peace in your homes, in your schools, in your communities, you can write them there, right? Clear? Okay. Now about this lesson, children, it tells us about the Red Cross Society, which was founded in 1863. Which year? 1863. This Red Cross Society was founded in Geneva, Switzerland, with approximately 97 million volunteers. Who are volunteers, children? People who offer their help without any motive, right? They do not get paid for that, right? They offer their help on their own, right? Members and staff worldwide. So that society had 97 million volunteers worldwide, which was founded to protect human life and health. And this organization, this society was founded to protect human life and its health, to ensure respect for all human beings and to prevent and alleviate human suffering. Alleviate to reduce the suffering of the people, right? Now, let's get started with this chapter, children. Dunant, we pronounce it as Dunant. He is silent over here, kids. So Dunant was the son of a rich businessman. He had to travel extensively for his business. So Dunant, he was the son of a very, very rich businessman and he used to travel a lot for his business. One such trip took him to the Lombardy Plains in Italy in June 1859. In the year 1859, his business called him to a trip in Lombardy Plains in Italy, right? The Emperor of France, Napoleon III. At that time, who was the Emperor of France? It was Napoleon III, and he was at war with Austria. And there was a war going on with Austria at that time. Dunant hoped to meet Napoleon for a business project, and he was there to meet Napoleon regarding a business, right? It was a beautiful spring night. Dunant was asleep in an inn in Castiglione. Yeah, Castiglione della Peace, a town in northern Italy, right? Suddenly, around 3 p.m., he was sound asleep in his inn, and at 3 a.m. in the midnight, he was awakened by the sound of artillery fire. What is artillery fire, children? It is the sound of very, very heavy guns firing, right? So he was awakened by the sound of artillery fire. The sound came from nearby Solferino. The Battle of Solferino had begun. So the Battle of Solferino had begun at that night when he was sleeping in the inn, right? Dunant hurried towards Solferino. He perched on the top of a hill from where he got a clear view of the battle. So he climbed on the top of a hill from where he could get a clear view, where he could see clearly to the battlefield. Right? 3 lakh men faced one another. There were 3 lakh soldiers who were fighting against each other. On one side were the French and Sardinian soldiers, and on the other the Austrians. Okay, the dawn broke, drums rolled, trumpets sounded, muskets cracked, and soon the dawn broke, drums started to roll, and there was the sound of these trumpets and muskets. Muskets are these very light guns which have a thick barrel, right? Which have a long barrel. So all these sounds were being heard at the crack of the dawn. Galloping horses, there were horses who were running. There were sounds of their running and tramping feet. Tramping means there's also a sound made while walking, right? And tramping feet raised clouds of dust. There was dust all around. People were running, horses were galloping, right? So the war had begun. The opposing armies rushed at each other like wild beasts, and enemies were charging at each other like some wild animals. Grenades and bombs were flying fast. All these bombs, they were also being thrown to the other side, right? Those who managed to escape were either killed by bayonets or bullets or trampled under the horses and gun carriages. Some people who managed to escape, even they were killed either by bayonets. What are bayonets, children? These are a small knife you must have seen, or a dagger that is attached to the muzzle of a rifle, right? So they were either killed by those bayonets or the bullets that were flying around, and if they could escape those, then they were run over or trampled under the horses, right? And gun carriages. Gun carriages, these are very large trains, and they move around on wheels, and they are used to fire very powerful guns. Very large and powerful guns are fired using these gun carriages. So people were run over by these gun carriages and horses. One man, however, moved about fearlessly in the battlefield, comforting the wounded. However, there was one man who was not at all fazed by all this, and he was moving fearlessly in the battlefield. Who was he? He was Abbey Lane, Napoleon III's chaplain. The chaplain is a priest, right, who was there to provide support to the wounded, right? He was providing religious support to them. So he was Abbey Lane, Napoleon's priest, chaplain. Some women gave wounded water as they cried piteously for thirst. There were soldiers who were wounded. There were so many people who were wounded very, very badly, and there were women who were offering them water because they were crying in such a piteous manner. Everybody was feeling pity or sympathy towards them. So these women, they started offering them help by giving them water. Right? Dunant could see black flags flying in the distance. They marked the sites of field hospitals where the wounded were taken for first aid. So Dunant could see that there were all these black flags on top of some buildings, and they were marked for the sites where the hospitals were there. Right? The wounded were taken there for first aid. The fighting continued for 15 hours. So this battle, this fighting, it continued for 15 hours, and after that, the Austrians, they withdrew from the war. Right? The Battle of Solferino came to an end. The Austrians withdrew from the battle, and it came to an end after 15 hours. Right? Many officers and soldiers began searching for their missing comrades among the dead and wounded. Now, all these soldiers and officers, they started searching for their friends, for their comrades, for people who are comrades, for people who fight in the war on your side, right? So they started searching for There are people amongst the dead and wounded people who were lying there. Injured friends were taken to the hospital. They took the soldiers who were injured to the hospital. The sun rose the next morning to reveal a horrifying sight. It was a shocking sight, children. That aftermath of the war was horrifying. It was shocking. The corpses, the dead bodies of men and horses covered the battlefield. There were dead bodies of horses and men lying all over the battlefield. Fields were devastated. Fields were destroyed. Orchards laid waste. Laid waste means destroyed. Orchards were, so many orchards were also destroyed. Fences were broken. Farm walls riddled with huge holes. There were huge holes in the farm walls. Helmets, belts, pins, knapsacks, guns and cartridge boxes littered the battleground and the road to Solferino. So what could be seen all around? There were helmets of the soldiers, there were tins, there were knapsacks. Knapsacks are the bags that these soldiers or people used to carry on their shoulders, right? There were guns, cartridge boxes. These boxes are used to, cartridge boxes carry bullets or other explosive items in them. So all these things were littered everywhere around the battlefield and also on the roads to Solferino. Over 50,000 men have been killed in only 15 hours. Just imagine, children, only 15 hours of the war, of the battle, killed 50,000 people, right? And thousands lay wounded. There were thousands of them who were still wounded and were still fighting for their lives. The quartermaster of the army and his assistants took wounded to the field hospitals. The people were taking them to the field hospitals from where they were transferred to the nearest town. The town of Castiglione was jammed with almost 6,000 badly wounded soldiers. There were around 6,000 soldiers who were very badly wounded, and the whole town of Castiglione was jammed with these wounded soldiers. Every church, convent, house, public square, courtyard, street or pathway had been converted into a temporary hospital. So every building they could possibly think of was converted into a temporary hospital to tend to these wounded people, right? The local authorities were unable to cope with the situation. However, the situation was so bad that the local authorities could not cope, could not deal with the situation alone, right? There were no more beds for the wounded. The hospitals were full. All these temporary hospitals were also full, and now there was no bed available for all these wounded people. Most of the army doctors were in Tavriana, a nearby town. The injured cried out. There were no doctors there to tend to these patients, and they were crying out in pain, right? At first, Dunant watched this scene helplessly. First of all, he was just watching as a spectator, and he felt helpless watching all these wounded people, right? But suddenly, in shock and anger, he decided something had to be done. He said that I cannot sit like that just watching all this horror. He had to do something. A volunteer service had to be organized immediately. He thought of organizing a society, a volunteer committee immediately, right? Dunant knew that the neighboring hospitals were full, or meaning that all the hospitals were full and there were no beds available. So he got together as many civilian doctors and volunteers as he could and took them to the church at Castiglione. So what he did, he gathered all these civilian doctors and people who volunteered to help them and took them to the church at Castiglione, where there was a temporary hospital being made. Water was brought from fountains and farms to relieve the thirsty. Little boys went from door to door begging for soup. All these little boys, they also tried to help in their own ways by begging, right, for soup for these soldiers, for these wounded people. Women brought soap, linen, and sponges. Women, they used to bring soap for these wounded people. They used to bring linen, that is clothing, for helping them in bandaging the wounded people, and sponges also. Dunant sent his coachman to bring in supplies of tobacco, lemons, and oranges from the neighboring town of Brescia. Wounds were washed and dressed. So, what did Dunant do? He sent his coachman to the neighboring town Brescia and ordered him to bring tobacco, lemons, and oranges. Right? Pipes were filled and glasses of refreshing lemonade passed around. What are pipes, children? Pipes are used to smoke tobacco, right? People use these small pipes to smoke tobacco. So pipes were filled and glasses of refreshing lemonade were passed around. Hour after hour, Dunant's white summer suit splattered with blood and screams of pain ringing in his ears. So hour after hour, his white suit, which was being stained in the blood of the soldiers, right? There was blood all over his suit and his ear was ringing. His ears were ringing with the screams of these soldiers who were crying out in pain, right? But soon all the wounded were put on straw pallets which were arranged in rows. So there were these beds that were made of straws and they were very neatly arranged in rows so that even by candlelight the doctors could move easily. So there was no light and even by candlelight there could not be any problem to the doctors in moving around. Dunant walked between the rows offering sips of water and words of sympathy. Dunant, he offered between the rows of these patients and he offered them water and sometimes he would say these words of sympathy which would help them soothe their pain, right? Alleviate their pain. He filled pipes and cleaned and bandaged wounds. वो मेरे बाद आएंगे हाँ जी उनका कॉल आया था ना उन्होंने पहले 10 बोला था ना तो उनको फिर वो कहती मुझे लेट हो जाएगा तो फिर मेरा जब होने वाला होगा तो मैं उनको कॉल करती हूँ वो अराउंड 12:15 तक आएंगे सुबह ही कॉल आया था एक घंटे के लिए आएंगे हाँ जी 12 से Dunant walked between the rows, offering sips of water and words of sympathy. So he used to walk between these rows and offered sometimes water and sometimes words of sympathy. Sometimes he soft words to help them reduce their pain. He filled pipes and cleaned and bandaged wounds. He used to fill the pipes of these soldiers with tobacco and he used to dress their wounds again. The soldiers named him the gentleman in white. So these soldiers, they gave him the name of the gentleman in white. Meanwhile, more volunteers arrived. An ex-naval officer and a couple of English tourists who had entered the church out of curiosity were persuaded to stay and help. So, meanwhile, more and more volunteers kept on arriving. There was this ex-naval officer and a couple of English tourists who had by mistake entered the church out of curiosity and then they were forced to stay there and help them. A Swiss merchant was there who came for 2 days and he spent his time writing letters for the dying men to their families. Right? He wrote letters on behalf of the dying soldiers to their families. Most of the women volunteers with their gentleness and care gave courage to those in pain. They spoke gentle words. They cared for them in such a way in order to help them, right? Help them relieve their pain. They only tended the French and Sardinian soldiers whom they regarded as friends. However, these women, they only attended to the French and Sardinian soldiers whom they considered as friends and they left out the Austrian soldiers who were also wounded there. The wounded Austrian soldiers were left to suffer. Dunant, however, he saw the human beings in everyone he attended for. Dunant was such a soft person, he attended even the Austrian soldiers, right? He considered all the human beings as equal. He saw human beings in everyone. But he is an enemy, exclaimed one peasant woman as he went to comfort an Austrian soldier. As Dunant was comforting an Austrian soldier, one woman, one peasant woman, she exclaimed that he is an enemy. Why are you helping him out? Dunant said quietly, the enemy is a man. The enemy is also a human being, right? The way in which Dunant said these words impressed the women and the other volunteers. All these people and all these women, they were impressed with the way Dunant said these words, that the enemy is a man, right? They began to follow Dunant's example. They were moved by his words. Water was offered to the Austrians. Now people started tending to these Austrians as well. Tutti fratelli, shouted a woman. What does that mean? They are all brothers and we should help them too. So everyone, they took up this message and it started echoing in the church. What was the message? Tutti fratelli, they are all brothers, right? But after a while, one by one they began to leave. Besides, they were needed at home and some of the soldiers had a long recovery ahead. So after a while, all these soldiers, they began to leave because either it was a very, very long journey for their recovery and also they were needed at their homes. As the days went by, many soldiers died, others were moved to bigger towns and hospitals. Dunant appealed for the release of captured enemy doctors, pleading that they must be considered neutral. Neutral means that they should not be considered on either of the side, and all these enemy doctors should be released and should be allowed to go back to their homeland, Austria. Napoleon agreed, and the Austrians got back their doctors, and the city's services began to function effectively. Dunant went back home. Now he went back home. But could he have forgotten the misery and suffering that he had witnessed there? He could not forget the sufferings of the people and the miserable state they were in. He could not forget them even after going back. He was sure that the situation in Castiglione would have been far less tragic if he had 100 experienced and qualified volunteers, orderlies, and nurses to help him. So he said that he was sure that the condition the Castiglione was in would have been far less tragic, would have been far better if there were more volunteers. Volunteer orderlies means more assistants they had and nurses to help them out with the wounded soldiers. Dunant thought about this day and night. He thought about this day and night, neglecting his business, and he started neglecting his business and he wrote a book after that, which was a souvenir of Solferino. In this book, he gave a detailed account of the Battle of Solferino and the suffering that followed. So he gave a very, very detailed account of all that happened on the battlefield of Solferino, how the people suffered, what was their miserable state. So he gave a very detailed account of that. He took 12 months to complete it and it was published in 1862. He took entire 12 months, 1 year to complete that book and it was published in 1862. It contains a passionate appeal against the inhumanity of war. It contained an appeal against the cruelty of war, against the harshness of these wars. To date, it remains one of the most vivid, most detailed and moving, heart-wrenching, heart-touching accounts of war ever written, right? Dunant distributed thousands of copies of this book all over the continent. So he started distributing thousands of his copies of this book in all over the world. All those who read it were acquainted with the horror of war. They got to know what a war was like, what was its aftermath, what were its consequences, as well as the pitiful inadequacy of the few helpers who were there to help the wounded. And also, he put forward that there were so many volunteers that were needed. There were so many less volunteers that were there to help the wounded. So people should come forward and volunteer themselves to help the people after war, help the wounded after the war. A conference was held in 1863 in which 14 countries sent their delegates. Who are delegates present? These countries, they send their representatives, right? And another conference was held in 1864 in which 15 countries sent their delegates. And as a result of these conferences, an international convention was signed, according to which the governments were bound to serve the sick and wounded army personnel in times of war, irrespective of the side they were fighting for. So, according to this international convention that was signed, the governments were ordered to tend to all these soldiers, irrespective of which team they belong to, which army they belong to. They had to tend to the wounded soldiers, right? And those looking after the wounded would not be attacked. And those people who were looking after all these wounded people, that maybe the soldiers were from the enemy, right? From the enemy army, but they were also not to be attacked. And prisoners of war would be exchanged wherever possible, and they were to exchange all those prisoners of war. It was also decided to adopt a red cross on a white background. So there was this symbol that was decided upon, a red cross on a white background as a symbol of neutrality. Neutrality, again, it means being on the neither side, right? This symbol was chosen as it could be easily recognized. This was a very, very easily recognizable symbol. That is why it was chosen. All countries were asked to form volunteer units to help the sick and wounded during a war. So all these countries, they were ordered to form these committees of volunteer units who were going to help during the war, right? It was in 1867 that the official name Red Cross Society was adopted. When was this official name adopted? Red Cross Society in 1867. It took its motto as, what was the aim of that Red Cross Society? Inter Arma Caritas, which meant charity in the midst of battle. Charity in the middle of battle. What was that? Inter Arma Caritas. Right, children? The Red Cross Society looked after the suffering people not only during wars but also during natural disasters. So these units, they also help during natural disasters. It has young volunteers who help the people of villages and towns with their work. So there are so many young volunteers who help the people during such disasters and wars. Right? Let us tell you about Dunant once again. As he neglected his business, he became bankrupt by 1867. So, because of neglecting his business came down and he was bankrupt by 1867. He resigned from the committee, penniless. Now, he did not have any money at all. Penniless Dunant started to lead a very, very simple life. A press report revealed his sacrifice and he was co-awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1901. Now, press report, it revealed his sacrifices and his work, right? And he was co-awarded. Co-awarded, why? Because it was given, the award was shared by some other people. He was co-awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 1901, but he donated the money to the society. But he donated the money he received for that award, that also he donated to the society. He died in the year 1910. His ideas have united millions of people all over the world. See, so many people have come together as a unit, right? He has united so many people by his ideas. Red Cross symbolizes a unique brotherhood. What does this Red Cross symbolize? It shows a unique brotherhood, a unique fellowship in the history of man. Right? The birthday of Dunant, that is on May 8th, is celebrated as the World Red Cross Day every year. So his birthday, May 8th, is celebrated as World Red Cross Day, right? So, hope you have understood this chapter, children. Any doubts? So, let's see what the moral of this chapter. War, children, it is a terrible evil. It refers to an armed battle between nations, and it causes big suffering to the family members of the people who die during the war. There are so many people who die and get wounded during the war, and their families suffer a lot. During war, there is a massive destruction of property, wealth, trade, industry. So all these things suffer because of the war. The economy of the country goes down, the trade, wealth, all of these things suffer. It completely affects the social life of the people. The social life is also affected by these wars, right? So let's start doing these with the correct answer. In a battlefield, dash men saved one another. How many soldiers were there fighting in the battlefield? Exactly, there were 3 lakh soldiers, right? There were no dash for the wounded. Very good, children. There were no beds for the wounded. Excellent. Dunant became bankrupt. Yes, he became bankrupt because of neglecting his business. Number 4, symbol of Red Cross is on a dash background. What color background was it? It was a white background, right? In 1863, dash countries sent their delegates. So in 1863, there were 14 of them, and in 1864, there were 15 delegates, right? Okay. Now, the local authorities were unable to dash with the situation. They were unable to cope with the situation, children. So, cope. He was dashed the Nobel Prize. He was co-awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Number 3, pipes were filled and glasses of refreshing lemonade, right, passed around. Right, children? Number 4, his ideas have dashed millions of people. His ideas have united millions of people. It took 12 dash to complete his book. Correct? It took 12 months to complete his book. And the Red Cross Society looks after the dash people. It looks after the wounded people. Clear to all of you? Shall we move on? Now, let's write true or false. The birthday of Dunant falls on May 10th. No, it falls on May 8th. So this is false. Number 2, Dunant distributed millions of copies of his book all over the continent. He distributed thousands of copies, not millions. So again, false. Number 3, Dunant was unable to forget misery and sufferings during the war. Yes, he was unable to forget all these things. So, true. Dunant became bankrupt in 1867. Yes, true. And Dunant died in 1920. No, he died in 1910. So it is false. Clear, children? Now, let's answer the following questions. What did Dunant see during the war? So, what children did Dunant see? He saw the sufferings and misery of the people. He saw the aftermath, the destruction the war had caused, right? And he also saw that, he also got to know that there was a lack of volunteers or helpers to tend to the wounded, right? what happened when Dunant was asleep in an inn. So, when he was asleep in an inn at around 3 a.m., he was awakened by the sound of artillery fire as the Battle of Solferino had begun, right? Number 3, what did Dunant do after neglecting his business? Yes, children, he wrote a book. It took 12 months to write a book. The name of the book was A Souvenir of Solferino, right? What is the symbol of Red Cross? So, number 4, children, what is the symbol of Red Cross and why was it chosen? There was a red cross on a white background which symbolized neutrality. And why was this symbol chosen, children? It was chosen because it was very, very easily recognizable. Right? Number 5, when was the Red Cross Society adopted? It was adopted in 1867. And what was its motto? What was its motto, children? Do you remember? Very good. It was Alma. Sorry. What was the motto, children? What was the motto? Number 5. What was the Red Cross Society? When was the Red Cross Society adopted? And what was its motto? So, the Red Cross Society was adopted in the year 1867. And what was its motto, children? Exactly, it was Inter Arma Caritas, right? So, it meant charity in the midst of the battle, right? So, I hope this chapter is very, very clear to all you children. So I'll see you guys with the next chapter very soon. Till then, stay blessed and stay later, children. Bye bye.